Everyone, here we go. Another round, right? Today we're going to be talking about some story problems. We're obviously going to be doing that in the lens of division. Um, Not always fun when we already know. I mean, part of the challenge sometimes is trying to figure out what do we do? Are we multiplying, dividing? But here we're going to be looking at division story problems. Um, I mean, I guess not. They're not really problems. That's what we call them. But it's not a problem. It's like a story. We're just going to be doing some math through a story. Story math. I don't know. Whatever. You get the point. So let's dive in today. What we're going to do is we're going to explore a couple of stories that will have math problems in them. But they will not be a problem for us because we're going to use our great thinking to solve. So let's reveal our big sticky note here and delete. And let's go ahead and dive in. So today, here's story one. It says that there are 565 students trying to get a ride to their field trip to watch the Seahawks play a football game. Cool. Unfortunately, what? Unfortunately, the school buses have broken down and now they need to drive in cars. Okay, we got a challenge here. Story challenge. Sorry, I just tried to rename the story problem. Anyway, it has been discovered that they can fit 9 people in a minivan. So, how many minivans will they need to get everyone to the game? Okay, cool. I like these stories because they kind of play around. They use some different vocabulary to try to confuse us, right? Like they've used the word bus, they used the word car, but now they're asking about minivans. They're trying to throw us off, but really, let's just break in and think about what's going on. We know we have these 565 students. We know, hey, I'm a student. We know they're trying to get to the stadium with the football players. Wow. Yep, that's right. That's my stadium with a football in it. We know we're trying to get there. We just realized now they're going to have to take some minivans. What is that? A train? Um, there's a steering wheel now. They're gonna have to take that minivan, and it's gonna take 9 at a time, right? So we're starting with this big group of people. We're breaking them into groups of 9. We're trying to get them home to the game, or to the game in general. I guess that's not their home. Cool. So let's start with math, right? Mathematically, the process is saying, okay, well, there's 565 students. We're going to divide them into these these minivans that hold 9 people. And we just need to figure out how many minivans will we need to make sure the process happens. So as you know from any previous video you might have watched, I am a big fan of partial quotients. I just really do think it is a good way to organize and think about how we can take groups of 9 in the ways that are most compatible with the way that we think. So I'm going to set that up. Remember, sometimes people call this the big 7. I always hesitate to call it that because that's just what this little graphic organizer looks like, but it's not really a technique. We're doing it in groups of 9. So how many groups of 9 can we make with 565 people? I'm going to start by thinking about groups of 9 that I know. If I know 9 times 1, right, is 9, then I definitely know 9 times 10 is 90. If I know 9 times 5, I like 5s, those are good, is 45. Well, then I know 9 times 50 is 450. I like that chunk right away, right? Again, what that's saying is we're going to take 50 groups of 9, and it is equal to 450. So of my 565 people, I got 50 minivans and got 450 of them to the game so far. So that leaves me with 115 people left. I have to move up a little bit so we have some space. I think I'm going to need to keep going. Okay. So let's look at our next group. Let's see, we have 100. Oh, well, here, like a group 90 would be good. So that'd be a group of 10. So I'm going to put a group of 10 up here. And again, I understand sometimes this is where it's really confusing about what number goes where, right? Sometimes if you want, sometimes you could make like a bit of like a chart to remind you, right? This is like the number of groups. This is the total. And this is the how many. are in one group. I don't know, I don't know, right? And you can kind of organize it that way to remember where numbers go. Like the first number, the 9, doesn't go anywhere because I already have it over here. The number in the middle is what I put on the outside because it's the number of groups I'm making. And then the total is what goes in the middle. Anyway, just a little side note. I think sometimes people forget where to put what with this method. So we know that 9 groups or 10 groups of 9, right, is 90. So we just got 90 more people to the game. I'm going to subtract to help me with that. So that leaves me with 25 people. Let's see, 9 times 3 is 27. So that's too much. So I'm going to have to go 9 times 2. That gets me 18. Oh, I'm going to have to scoot up even more. This is what I get for not fully planning. And if we subtract that, that gets us 7. So we have 7 left over. I know this is a remainder because, again, remember here, look, right? It's less than the number I'm dividing by. So what we found out is that we're going to take 62 minivans, 62 full minivans. But we got to pay attention to our remainder. So if we think about like the answer, the solution, the number that goes to this, it would be 56. Oh, here, actually, let's just write it up here. That makes sense. Let's write it right here. It would be 50. No, what? It would be 565 divided by 9. Trust me, I was getting there. Equals 62 and then 7/9 or 7 people left over. Now, the question though, and this is the part that's tricky with the story problems, it says, how many minivans will they need to get everyone to the game? Well, what this number says is 62 minivans will get everyone but 7 people to the game. So like, what are we going to do? Oh, sorry, 7 people, stay home, turn on the TV. Hope you can watch it. Peace. No, right? What this says then to help us answer this question as a story problem is that we'll fill 62 minivans, but then we have 7 people left over. So we're going to have to put them in another minivan. Now that minivan will not be full because it holds 9 and there's only 7 of them, but it still means we need 1 more minivan. So we're going to need 62 full minivans plus 1 more minivan for those 7 people, meaning our answer is 63 minivans. So I'm going to come up here and put it, I guess, up here as my answer. So how many minivans will they need? They will need 63 minivans, right? So again, this is that process of story problems. It's really paying attention to what is our question asking us? And then also, what does the remainder say to help us answer that question? So let's look at another one. That was fun. So it looks like everyone gets to the Seahawks game. And this one here says we have Mr. Teacher and Teacher, very generic, wonderful names, are picking berries to take home to make pies with pies. They're taking berries home. They're picking them and taking the berries home. Anyway, Mr. Teacher picks 276 berries. Cool, nice job, bro. And Mrs. Teacher picks 352. Oh, okay, even more berries. They agree to split all the berries equally. So there's some keywords. So split and equally. So they're going to share all the berries together, right? How many berries does each teacher go home with? Okay, well, this is actually a multi-step problem if we stop and really think about what we're looking at here, right? It doesn't matter who picked what. They're not taking home just theirs. They're talking about of all the berries, of all the berries they pick together, they're going to put those together and then split them. So we first got to figure out how many berries do they have all together. Now we know Mr. Teacher, Mr. Teacher picked 276 and Mrs. Teacher or Ms. Teacher picked 352. So first let's get a total. This is like all the berries picked all together. So 12. So they picked 628 berries all together. Now, what they're saying is they're going to put all those together. Now they're going to split them evenly. So if they're going to split, that's a key word, split. That means we're going to divide it. I like that word. If you split things up, you're dividing them. And they're going to do it equally. And what are we dividing by? Oh, we're dividing by 2 because it's by the teachers. Okay. So this is a pretty big one because we got a lot here, but we can remember we can take big chunks. So let's go back to partial quotients. We have 628. We're dividing it by 2. So let's see. I got to start. I'm going to go big right away. Let's see if I know. Oh, if I know 2 times 3 equals 6, then 2 times 30 equals 60, and 2 times 300 equals 600. So that's actually a super big chunk right away. I'm going to do that one right away. So again, the 2 is right here. I'm going to do 3, a group of 300, and that equals 600. So I actually only have 28 berries left. 2 times 10 is 20. So that leaves me with 8 berries. Oh, and 2 times 4 is 8. So that leaves me with 0 berries. I'm just squeezing it in on the screen there. So actually I have no remainders. So there we go. So our final answer is just going to be what we do when we add these together. So we're going to take 300 plus 10 plus 4. And that's 314. So what we just figured out here, and again, this is that one thing I want to warn everyone about, right? You're doing all this great work on your paper, on your screen, on your assignment, and then it's like, well, what's the answer? Like all this stuff, I have things circled, I have things squared, whatever. What we did is we added the berries together, then we split them. So our final answer of how many berries each person goes home with is 628 divided by 2 is 314. Right? This is the final answer. But remember, it's a story problem, so we have to label it. So I'm going to come over here. After all these circles and things, I'm going to go ahead and say, just to be clear, here's my answer. 314 berries, right? Again, using the unit of measurement. And there we have it. The fun of story problems or stories or math stories or whatever you want to call them. This is what it's all about. So again, take your time, read them, draw pictures, think about what you're doing, right? Kind of similar to what I modeled in that first one. I drew a picture of people and minivans and the stadium. That's going to help you think about what to do. Then write out, solve, and then make sure you have a labeled answer. Math stories are great. They're not a problem. And again, as always, appreciate your hard work and keep this in mind as you do your own work. And we'll see you next time.